Hello and welcome to another Stamp with Amy K Facebook Live video. And today I'm going to show you a card that I made with the Expressions of Friendship stamp set, which is one of the host exclusive items from the upcoming Stampin' Up! January to June 2022 mini catalog. It's a fun little stamp set, and it's a really cute one, I guess. One of those that's fun to use, and love that you can get it for free while the catalog is live with an order of $150 or greater. Again, it's a cute little stamp set, and it's got some good sentiments in it, got a cute little image in it. So again, it's just a fun stamp set, one that I like. It's one of the red rubber stamps, so it's easy to stamp with and easy to use, and again, just one that I really like. Hey Connie and Karen, thanks so much. Glad you liked my card too. It's sort of a little bit of a take on the one that they have in the back of the catalog already, but I changed it up a little bit. I don't know, I just I wanted to do it similarly because I liked the general colors that they used, but just changed it a little bit to do a little bit more of what I wanted with it. All right, so that is the card. One other thing that I did, let me set some of this out of the way, too much junk. One other thing that I did use is the Dahlia Days stamp set. This is also one that is in the upcoming January to June 2022 mini catalogs, and it is bundled together with a die set. And the only thing that I used in this is this little teeny set of flowers, and it's all one stamped image, and then there's a coordinating die with it. These are the detailed Dahlia's dies, and they obviously are bundled together and coordinate, and they are also available in the upcoming catalog. So again, that is all that I used, is the little teeny tiny flowers from there. I just thought they were really cute and added a little something extra, similar to the ones that they had on their card in the catalog, but just a little different because I liked the stamp look better than the not stamped look. So, all right. Hey, Danette and Bonnie and Marilyn, I see is here. Who else? And Karen K and Barbara and Donna. Goodness, and Kevin is here, and Kathy. I missed a whole bunch of people because I was busy talking. And Carol, thanks so much for joining today. I appreciate you all being here. All right. So a couple other things that I used on this. I did use one of the Tasteful Labels dies, and it's the larger of the two circle dies, and I used that to cut out the sentiment on here. And then, of course, I used my ever favoritist die set ever. If that even makes sense. The stitched rectangle dies, and I used the third to the largest rectangle die to die cut just around the kind of focal image here on the card. All right, let me set those aside so that hopefully I have everything in the right place. Before we get started, a couple things to remind you of. I do have Designer Series paper shares that I am doing, have got going on right now. The joining part is going on right now through the 2nd of January, which is a Sunday, I believe. You can sign up and get a little sampling of all the Designer Series papers. And actually the one that we're using today, the Heart and Home Designer Series paper, is actually one of them that is in my paper share. So you can get a sampling of all the papers plus a few of the celebration ones if you join my share by the 2nd. And again, it's just a 6x6, or you can do 6x12 designer paper shares. The details are all posted on my blog, and there'll be a link to it as well in the blog post when I post about this card tomorrow as well. All right, a couple of other things. Hey, Jeannie and Vicki and Catherine, glad you're here, and hope that you're all having a good day. So, all right, Eden's Garden is actually, I looked at the calendar, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's only a week away. The new calendar, or the new catalog starts, and the Eden's Garden product collection actually ends. Now, the stamp and die set are in the upcoming mini catalog, so that and the bundle pricing will carry over. Hey, Daryl, glad you're here as well. But the pretty Designer Series paper and the cotton paper and the Garden Gems are all going to be going away. They're only while supplies last through January 3rd, so make sure that you get on ordering this because you don't want, especially those papers, they're beautiful, and the gems are gorgeous. You can order the entire collection together with one item number, or you can order each item individually, however you want to do it. But again, don't wait. We only got a week left on that one. And only a week left on the last chance product sale that Stampin' Up! Has going on. So anything that is retiring from the current mini catalog, which is the July to December 2021 mini catalog, the one that's got all of the Christmas and Halloween and fall things in it, There are a lot of things retiring out of there, and they're only available while supplies last. And a handful of the items are on sale. And so make sure you're getting on ordering any of those items that are left that you didn't get yet. So again, that January 3rd, which is next week, Monday, it's a week away. So just make sure that you get all those things ordered so you don't miss out on anything. All right, so let's get going on the card. I started with a card base that is basic gray. And hey, Debbie, glad you're here, and glad to see you. And looks like Amy and Connie. I don't know. Anyway, sorry. So, all right. So got a card base that is 8 1/4 by 5 1/4 and scored at 8. That is all wrong. I'll post the right measurements on my blog tomorrow. Never trust what I say, because usually I'm just talking and things come out, and then later on I realize it's all the wrong thing. So it is 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, scored at 4 1/4. That's what I was trying to say. So it's your standard book fold card, only it's going to end up being a top fold card, because this one obviously is going to open like that. And I have a piece of the Heart and Home Designer Series paper. And again, it's beautiful, beautiful paper. So it's wood grain on half of the pack, like one side on each of the papers is wood grain. And then there are beautiful designs that are kind of, I don't know, country is not the right word, but beautiful designs on the opposite side. So we're gluing down the pretty, well, they're both pretty. I love wood grain everything, so I can't claim that I'm not going to use the wood grain as much as the other pieces in the pack. So I'm going to glue that with multi-purpose liquid glue to the front of the basic gray card base. And this piece of paper should be cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And it should cover, if I've cut everything correctly, the entire front of the card. I generally use the liquid glue when I'm doing this type of adhering things together where I need it to fit well, and I need a little wiggle room to make sure that I have everything stuck down exactly where I want it to be before it's there for good. So, all right, so we've got that done. Next up, we're going to do a little stamping. If you wanted to use your Stamparatus with this, you certainly could, if that's easier for you. I know handling this big block sometimes is not very easy for people. I went ahead and put it on the block, but you can definitely use your Stamparatus if you would prefer to do that with this image. And I've got Tuxedo Black Memento ink that I'm going to be inking this image with. And I'm going to try to make sure I get a good and inky stamp here before I put it down on the paper. That's one of the other advantages to using the Stamparatus, is that if you don't get a perfect image the first time, you can always come back and restamp it again. Basic white cardstock, if I didn't say that already, and it's, I don't know, it's a piece that's probably about 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 or so. It's definitely an oversized piece, because it's one of those that you can always trim it down. It's a little harder to add to it if you've cut it to the wrong size. And it looks like we got a pretty good image on that one, so I'm going to set that aside and try not to stick my arm or my sweater into the ink. And hey, Elise and Susan, glad you're here as well. All right, so that is the stamped image we've got. And I'm going to pull out a couple of Stampin' Blends markers sets. We have got Green Apple Green, Cinnamon Cider, Flirty Flamingo, the Light Pool Party, the Ivory, and the Color Lifter that we're going to be using today. So I'm going to start with the Cinnamon Cider, and we're going to color the tree image on here. And again, this may take me a little longer because I didn't pre-color anything ahead of time. But this is also one of those images that you don't need to spend a ton of time doing a lot of shading on it if you don't want to. If you're a little bit more like me and that you just, you know, put the color on the paper and go. This is one of those images. It's a little more artistic looking, so I don't feel like it has to be colored incredibly perfectly and, you know, have everything shaded exactly correctly. So I tend to just put the color on the paper, and I usually start with the light, which is what I have done here. So this is Light Cinnamon Cider, and I'm also going to color the little swing underneath her here, and hopefully I can get it. There we go. All right. Hey, Nancy, glad you're joining today as well. Then I've got the dark cinnamon cider, and again, there's no like special way that I do my shading on here. I just kind of come in anywhere where I feel like there would be a shadow, like kind of up here under the leaves and sort of along the edges of the tree. I just sort of add a little bit of the dark. And, you know, again, you can always come in and add more color. It's a little harder to take it away. Not that you can't, but it's a little harder to take it away. So then I'm just going to come back in here with my light cinnamon cider and try to do a little bit, just a little touch of blending, making sure that I don't have any real harsh lines. That's the main thing on this one. And whoop, there we go. Again, just kind of trying to blend along the edges and a little touch over the center of the tree. I did add a little tiny touch of a shadow underneath her where she's sitting on the swing, just because I assumed that there would be one there. And then I'll come back in here and just make sure that I have it blended the way that I want it to be underneath her. Then we're going to color. I've got Granny Apple Green, and again, light and dark. I start with the light. I'm going to color the grass. And it, you know, again, the one fun thing about this image is that it's a little messier down here around, you know, the tree and the grass and things. It's a little messy, so you really don't have to neatly color. And I apologize if I'm shaking the camera. I can see it kind of wiggling. So I'm trying not to get too overzealous with my heavy-handed coloring. But just add in a little bit of the light Granny Apple Green, sort of scratchy coloring, as I call it, over the bottom part of the image here. Then I'm going to come back in with the dark and just add in a little here and there, sort of over the areas where Stampin' Up! Has already nicely put the kind of pieces of little blades of grass, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, blades of grass. Just going to come in and add a little bit of color with the dark over that. And then I'm basically going to do the same thing up here on the top, on the top of the tree with the leaves. And again, it's pretty easy coloring, just kind of scratchy coloring, as I call it. You mainly just want to get the color on the paper, and you don't need to do an incredibly neat job. If you want to, and you're a little more worried about it than I am, you can kind of carefully outline all the little leaf images here and then color it in from there. But I do find that I just kind of go along and put the marker, you know, sort of scratch it in and out along the edges of the leaves. And that usually gives me the look that I want it to have, which is, again, a little more artistic as opposed to coloring in every single thing perfectly and making it all look beautiful. I just kind of scratch the color on. The other thing is that I will be trimming off some of the top of this, so I also don't need to be terribly worried about getting everything colored perfectly along the top. So the top and the bottom are going to be trimmed down a little bit with the die that I'm going to be using to die cut this. So the main thing is just making sure you get color on where you want it to be. Then I'm going to come back in. Hey Flo, glad you're here as well. Glad you caught me live. Going to come back in here again with the dark and just going to add again where the little leaf pieces are drawn. Little leaf pieces. Gosh, the little leaves are drawn. That's kind of where I'm going to focus most of the dark color, and just again come back in here, add in kind of scratching in the dark color over the top of the light, and it will kind of blend itself a little bit. If there's anywhere where you feel like you've got a strange looking line or something that you don't necessarily love with the dark ink that ended up on it, you can come back in and color over it with the light, and that usually fixes whatever the issue is. Covers it up, blends it together. There's also the color lifter that you can use. If you really end up with a spot that you don't love, you can take your color lifter and color over it, and it will kind of lift and lighten the color a little bit as well. All right, I forgot to color the girl's hair while I had my cinnamon cider markers out. So again, I'm going to start with the light, and we're just going to add color to her hair. Now, if you prefer that she be a blonde or a darker, you know, whatever, you can definitely do that. I just did this because it was matchy-matchy. So that was how I picked it, as, you know, the color all matched. So I started with the light, adding in a little bit of dark here and there on her hair. And then I have got my light and dark Flirty Flamingo Stampin' Blends marker. It is a really cute stamp set, and definitely one that you're going to want to get. It's one of the host exclusives, so that means that you need to either host a party with sales of $150 or greater, or place an order yourself that the order total is $150 or greater, and then you can add this as one of your free host items. So I've got the dark Flirty Flamingo Stampin' Blends marker. Just again going to add a little bit of color here along what would be facing forward on her, and a little bit underneath her hair, and probably a little bit here under the swing as well. Just adding a little bit of dark, and then I'm going to come back in with the light and blend them together here a little bit. And that's really all there is for coloring on her, so it's pretty simple. Last thing I need to do on her is color her skin, and again, there's the bronze marker as well as the ivory, so depending on the skin tone that you want, you can definitely color the skin tone, whatever it is that you prefer. All right, whoop, I guess I missed her little toes on here, so All right, so we've got that ivory on there. The last thing that I did was I took my light Pool Party Stampin' Buns marker and I just sort of traced it around the edges of the tree and around the girl, and then kind of colored in a little bit between the tree and the girl. And again, I know this is not going to give you like a perfect line. It's not going to be, you know, some amazing coloring fantastical job, but I feel like it gives the image a little bit of extra definition. And I don't know, I just liked the way it looked. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So went around the edges of the tree, and again, I'm using the brush tip on this as I do it. And let me go up here, and I think we'll go up a little bit higher on here because I don't know exactly where my die cut is going to end on that one. And then I'm going to trace around the girl. Again, just using the brush tip. And this color is light enough that if you end up accidentally coloring over the top of something that you've already colored, it probably is not going to show. So don't be overly stressed about, you know, oh my gosh, I have to trace this so perfectly. You don't. Like I said, I don't know if you can see my shaky hands. I'm definitely not coloring it perfectly. But it's, you know, again, just putting a little color on the panel here. And then I'm just going to color in between the tree and the girl and sort of give it a little bit of like an arc out in the front, if that makes sense. I don't know, a rounded something out here in the front. Arc is probably not the right word, but there we go. All right, so let me get that finished coloring here. And I got a little extra globby there that I want to color in and blend in a little bit. And that's kind of about it for the coloring. You can, if you'd like to. Hey, Jelly, I'm glad that you're here. So I'm glad that it looks all right to you. And I'm trying to, like I said, when I color, I don't spend a whole lot of time doing it. I know there are people who can spend hours and hours coloring. I like to color, but I'm just not that good at it. So I just tend to, you know, kind of do it until I think it looks pretty, and then I stop. So the last thing that you can do if you want to, now this isn't a requirement on it, if you don't like this line being as harsh as it is, you can take your color lifter, which is your kind of color eraser marker, and just sort of color along the edge of where you finished the blue line at. And that just softens it a little bit and blends it a little bit. So you may or may not like the way it looks when you get done with it. I do tend to, with this marker, color over it once and let it dry completely before you do anything else, because sometimes it looks a little weird and you're like, oh, I don't like the look of that at all. But as it dries, it sort of changes a little bit, if that makes sense. It changes the way it looks a little bit and softens it generally. So I tend to use it when I'm doing this type of coloring, when I want to sort of blend it a little bit, but not really do, you know, it kind of gets rid of the harsh line, and that's about all that it does. So, all right. So that is all for all that we're going to do for coloring on it. So pretty simple. And all right, Glenda, I'm going to grab the third to the largest of the stitch rectangle dies, and I'm going to go ahead and do a little cutting around this. My die cutting machine is over here off the screen to my right. Not that you care, but it's off the screen, so I'll be off screen for 1 second. Hopefully y'all enjoyed a wonderful Christmas. We had a good one here. It was quiet, which is always good. So, hey Melanie, thanks for hopping in. So, definitely a nice Christmas quiet, and you know, like I said, you know, we didn't do anything too exciting, just sort of hung out, let the kids open their presents, and they had a good time and got to play with all the new things, and they loved that. So, all right, so that is it for my die cut here. I'm going to get this die set out of the way, so hopefully I don't knock it on the floor. Next up, we are going to do a little bit of adhering, and whoop. That was an interesting catch. Hopefully I didn't totally, there. Okay, I thought I had totally flung the little flowers all over the place. So I've got a piece of Pool Party cardstock. This is cut to about 3 1/8 by 4 1/2. And again, the measurements will be on my blog tomorrow, so trust those and not what I'm saying, because a lot of times I say the wrong thing. And I'm just going to use a little Stampin' Seal, and we're going to adhere the two pieces together. All right. Hopefully I will get it centered on here. And hopefully I'm still on screen, which is always one of those things that I wonder about when I'm sticking things together, if I actually have it and I've got it on screen where you can see it. Then I'm going to pull my card base back in, and we're going to use some Stampin' Dimensionals to adhere, or my little half Stampin' Dimensionals that I chop up, to adhere the layered panel here to my card front. And I'll pick the backs off those and flip this over and adhere it. And I'll have dimensional backs all over the place in about 3 seconds. Thankfully the dog's not in here at this moment, otherwise she'd probably have them all over her too. So, all right. So the main thing I want to do is try to get it centered top to bottom and side to side. Again, if it's not perfect, you can always take your little paper snips, slide them in between the layers, and snip the Stampin' Dimensionals and restick it. I do that a lot because I mess up a lot. So, all right. So next up, we're going to do some stamping of the little flowers. I've already done the pale papaya ahead of time because, again, it's the same process, and I didn't figure you needed to see me stamp and die cut the flowers twice. So I've got Flirty Flamingo that we're going to be using for the other set of flowers. Again, the first ones I stamped in pale papaya, and thought they were kind of nice little spring colors. And the flowers are from the Dahlia Days stamp set. And the dies that I'm going to be using here are from the Detailed Dahlia dies. And they coordinate, and they're both in the upcoming mini catalog. So again, out of this whole huge die set and that whole big stamp set, the only thing I used was this little tiny die and the little tiny set of flowers. So again, what's nice about this die is, if I can get it on here the right way, there we go, is that it cuts all 3 of them at the same time, so you don't have to stamp and try to keep track of little tiny flowers and, little tiny dies. It's a small die, but easy enough to see. So, all right, so I'm going to again take this off screen a second and do some die cutting. Maybe, if I can get my die to stay in the right spot. All right, let me set the die down here. And you can see my chopped up cutting pads, because yes, I use them until they break usually. So, all right, so I've got 6 of the little flowers all die cut and ready to go here. And I'm going to grab my glue dots, which of course I forgot to grab before we get going. So I've got glue dots, just going to roll, and the nice thing about these flowers is they fit almost perfectly on a glue dot, which I love. So glue dots make things easy. I find it a lot easier to use glue dots than globs of liquid glue, just because the liquid glue and I are not always good friends. The liquid glue sometimes likes to ooze out and make a mess everywhere, where glue dots don't. And so I tend to use those anytime that I can when I'm adhering little pieces like this on a card front. So I've got the Flirty Flamingo ones on, and we're going to stick on the pale papaya. And again, I didn't put these on in any special way. I just, kind of grouped them together. Together as little flower friends. I don't know. So, all right. So let me take this, stick the last couple of these on here. And then we'll do some stamping the sentiment. And we're actually getting close to being done. So, all right. I think we'll go ahead, go ahead and put that one right up here. And I see that I've pulled out the glue dot here on on 2 of these. So take my scissors and jam it back under, and you can kind of move your die cut around a little bit as well. So whatever works better, you can either take it and use your snips and sort of roll it under, or you can move your die cut and slide it over too. I do that a lot of times with things when the glue dots don't necessarily get put on in exactly the right spot, because that happens too. All right, so I've got, again, basic white cardstock and my little sentiment from the Expressions of Friendship stamp set, and basic gray ink that I'm going to be stamping the sentiment in. Yeah, maybe I'm more interested in spring than I am in winter at this point. So yes, I'm kind of, I don't necessarily hate winter, but it's not my favorite season. Spring and fall are my favorites. I don't like extremes on one side or the other, whether it's too cold or too hot. So I'm much more of I like the middle temperatures. All right, so I've got my Tasteful Labels dies, and I'm going to use the larger of the 2 circles, and I'm going to die cut the sentiment. So I'll be off screen for 1 second. And it is a really fun stamp set. So, and if you're good at fussy cutting, yes, it would be a perfect one to do paper piecing on. But I'm just not very good at fussy cutting, so I tend to just color. I like that better. So, all All right, so we've got the sentiment die cut here. I did add a little bit, where is it, of the Pool Party 3/8 inch sheer ribbon. Just added a little bit under the sentiment. So I'm going to take this and use a little Stampin' Seal and just make a little mark down the paper with Stampin' Seal. Put this on over here and try to figure out approximately how wide I need to have the little Z go on here to make sure that it's peeking out around the sentiment. I don't want it to be completely hidden, but I want, you know, kind of a little bit to be hidden. So, all right, so I'm going to do this and make a little Z with the ribbon, and again, do one last check before I cut it to make sure that it looks how I want it to, which that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to trim this off, hopefully. There we go. And push it down here so that it stays stuck to the card front. And then I'm going to take two of my little Stampin' Dimensionals and I'm going to put them sort of on the top and the bottom, making sure that I catch the actual paper and not just the ribbon when I'm adhering the Stampin' Dimensionals, just because I want my sentiment to stay on the card front nicely and don't want to have to worry about it, you know, everything coming undone if the ribbon should happen to come a little bit loose. All right, so that is almost done with the card front. So that's the sentiment. Just stuck that down with Stampin' Dimensionals. And then I've got a couple of the brushed brass butterflies. And again, these are going to be in the upcoming mini catalog. So starting on the 4th of January, you'll be able to add these to an order. Going to stick one of them on the sentiment here, one of the larger ones, and then one of the smaller ones sort of off here floating over towards the trees. And that's it for the card front. So super simple, just a little bit of stamping, a little bit of coloring, a little bit of layering, and it's done. So super, super easy. On the inside, I kept it equally as simple, and I've got a piece of basic white cardstock that's cut to 4 by 5 1/4, and just a little leftover piece that I trimmed off from when I was cutting the card front. It's about 5/8 of an inch by, I don't know, it's probably 6 inches wide or so. Oh, thanks, Jackie. I'm glad you're liking it. So. Again, the details for this will be posted on my blog tomorrow, and I will share a link in this video to make sure that you can go back and take a peek at it if you want to look at any of the measurements again and make sure that I didn't say anything too incredibly wrong, which, that's totally not at all on here like I want it to be. So, again, just going to peel it off, stick it back on. This hopefully will be a little better. Yep, that's better. Stick it down here, and then use my paper snips to trim off the side, the little excess of the Designer Series paper. And again, that Designer Series paper is called Heart and Home, and it's in one of the suite collections. You can buy it individually, but it's also in one of the big suites in the new mini catalog. And it's in my paper share too. So again, just adhering that to the inside of the card base with a little bit of Stampin' Seal. And it's just basic white cardstock on the inside. Fold it shut, do a little crease with the bone folder, and we'll be all done. So that is it for my card share today. So hopefully you enjoyed it, and definitely consider getting this stamp set. It's a really, really cute one. Lots of fun sentiments in it, so I think you'll love it. Whether you have girls or not, you've always got a female person you can give it to in your life. So again, this is the card I made ahead of time. Here's the card we made live today. Again, definitely it's called the Expressions of Friendship stamp set. The little flowers are from the Dahlia Days stamp set bundle. Let me know if you have any questions about anything. I will plan to be back on my YouTube channel live around 2 o'clock Eastern time on Friday, and we're going to be playing with the little gumball stamp set. I already have that one planned out. And then I'll be back here on Facebook Live around 2 o'clock Eastern time next week, Tuesday. Again, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks so much for joining today. Hopefully, if I don't see you again, have a wonderful New Year. But hopefully you'll join me on Friday so I can say Happy New Year on New Year's Eve. So, all right, have a great rest of your week, and we'll chat soon.